The moon cast its silver glow over the village of Tsuenyan, a small settlement nestled between rolling hills and dense forests. The wind whispered secrets through the tall acacia trees as the cries of a newborn echoed through the night. Inside a modest thatched hut, a woman lay exhausted, her face drenched in sweat, yet her eyes glowed with a mother's love as she cradled her child. But when the midwife's gaze fell upon the infant's tiny hands, a chill ran through her spine. Instead of fingers like other children, the boy's hands were twisted, his fingers curled unnaturally. The midwife gasped, stepping back. This child, his hands, they bear the mark of the spirits. The whispers began that very night. Some murmured that the child was cursed, that he would bring misfortune upon the village. Others, more fearful, advised the mother to leave the child in the wilderness and let fate decide his worth. Yet his mother, Mafo, refused. She held him close and named him David Gratitude. It was his grandmother, Nana Jane, a revered healer, who silenced the rumors with a single proclamation. His hands hold a curse or a gift. He must choose. Thus began the legend of David, the boy marked by fate. From the moment David could walk, he understood that he was different. The village children shied away from him, their eyes filled with both curiosity and fear. Some whispered behind his back, others openly mocked him. Even their parents, who believed in the old ways, warned their children to keep their distance. Yet it was not the cruelty of words that pained David the most. It was the absence of touch. No one held his hand. No one embraced him, not even in times of play or joy. He learned to keep his hands hidden, tucking them into his tunic whenever he walked through the village. His grandmother, however, never let him hide. Every evening she made him sit by the fire as she mixed herbs and whispered to the spirits. "David," she said one night, as the flames danced between them, "the world will always fear what it does not understand, but you must never fear yourself." "How can I not?" he asked, staring at his hands. "Even I do not understand what I am." Nana Jane smiled, her old eyes gleaming with wisdom. "You are a story not yet told, and one day the world will listen." But at that moment David did not believe her, for he saw nothing but a life filled with whispers and shadows. The years passed, and Mpo grew ill. With no father to provide, and the village unwilling to lend aid to the cursed child, David was left with no choice but to fend for himself. He took to the dusty roads of Chuanyan, begging for scraps outside the market, his hands always hidden in the folds of his robe. One day, hunger clawing at his belly, he dared to steal. It was a simple loaf of bread, left unattended on a merchant's stall. His hands, swift and silent, closed around it. But before he could slip away, a firm hand grasped his wrist. "Thief!" The baker's voice boomed, and the crowd turned. David's heart pounded as rough hands dragged him forward. His hood fell back, and gasps rippled through the market as his hands were exposed. "Of course it's him," someone sneered. "The cursed boy." But then, something unexpected happened. The baker did not strike him. Instead, his eyes narrowed as he studied the boy's hands. There was something strange about the patterns on David's fingers. They were not just deformed. They bore intricate, swirling ridges, like ancient symbols carved in flesh. "Wait here," the baker said, vanishing into his shop. When he returned, he placed a lump of clay in David's hands. "Shape something," he said. "Let me see your hands work." David hesitated. All eyes were upon him, waiting for him to fail, to prove that his hands were useless. But something in the baker's gaze urged him forward. Slowly, his fingers pressed into the clay. They moved with a strange, innate knowledge, shaping, molding, breathing life into the formless mass. Minutes passed in silence. When he was done, gasps filled the air. In his palm rested a small lion, so detailed and lifelike that it seemed ready to roar. Every muscle, every curve of its mane was perfect. The crowd, once eager to condemn him, now stood in awe. The baker chuckled, shaking his head. "Not a curse," he murmured, "a gift." That moment would change David's fate forever. News of David's talent spread quickly. The village elders, once dismissive of him, now looked at him with cautious curiosity. One day, a renowned sculptor named Gosi visited the baker's shop asking to see the boy. Kagosi was an elder with wise eyes. his hands rough from years of chiseling stone. When he saw David's lion, he simply nodded. "There is power in your hands, boy. Come with me, and I will teach you." David hesitated. Could he truly be more than just an outcast? Yet something deep inside urged him forward. With his grandmother's blessing, he followed Kogosi, stepping into a world of artistry, discipline, and self-discovery. Under Kogosi's mentorship, David learned the art of sculpture. He worked tirelessly, shaping wood and stone, each creation more breathtaking than the last. But with each success, new challenges arose. Jealous rivals, doubts about his own worth, and mysterious visions that came to him in his dreams. One night, as he carved a great eagle, he saw something strange within the stone. A flickering light, a whisper of an ancient voice. "Your hands are meant for more than beauty, David," the voice murmured. "They are meant for destiny." Shaken, he wondered, was his gift more than mere talent? Was there truly something mystical within him? David's days under Gosi's mentorship were rigorous, filled with long hours of carving and refining his craft. But one evening, as he worked on a sculpture of a great buffalo, a group of masked figures stormed the workshop. They carried torches, their voices chanting in an unfamiliar tongue. "The cursed boy defies fate. He must be stopped," one of them declared. Gosi stepped in front of David, his old eyes flashing with defiance. "You will not harm him." But the leader of the group threw down a bundle of sticks. "If his hands are truly blessed, let them save him now." They set the workshop ablaze, the fire roaring like a beast hungry for destruction. David hesitated, watching the flames eat away at his hard work. Then, with newfound courage, he took a deep breath and dashed through the inferno, gripping his latest sculpture in his hands. He emerged from the fire unharmed, and the masked men gasped in fear. Kogosi placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your hands are not only meant to create, David, they are meant to endure." One evening, while exploring the ruins beyond the village, David discovered an ancient stone covered in markings eerily similar to the patterns on his hands. As he ran his fingers over them, whispers filled the air. "The one who shapes destiny has awakened," a voice murmured. Terrified yet intrigued, David dug beneath the stone, uncovering a hidden chamber filled with sculptures that seemed centuries old. Among them stood a colossal statue of a man with hands just like his. The inscription at its base read, "The Maker of Kings." What did it mean? Had others before him shared his fate? Not everyone celebrated David's growing renown. One of Gosi's other students, Mothusi, seethed with jealousy. He had trained for years, yet a boy with cursed hands was surpassing him. One night, Mothusi confronted David. "You think you're special? Just because you survived a fire? Just because you found an old stone? You're nothing but a mistake of fate." David said nothing, but his heart burned with anger. He would prove not to Mothusi, but to himself that he was destined for greatness. Word of David's talent reached the village elders. They summoned him to prove his worth, presenting him with a challenge: sculpt a figure so lifelike that it could be mistaken for a breathing being. David worked tirelessly, his hands moving as if guided by unseen forces. When he unveiled his sculpture, a great elephant with eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom, the elders gasped. One of them reached out to touch it, swearing he felt warmth beneath his fingers. "This is no ordinary talent," one elder murmured. "The ancestors speak through his hands." That night, David dreamt of the colossal statue from the hidden chamber. The stone figure moved, its voice deep and echoing. "You walk a path others have walked before, but where they failed, you must succeed. The destiny of kings lies in your hands." David woke in a sweat. What did it mean? Was he meant for something greater than art? A royal messenger arrived in the village, announcing that Queen Mary of the Great Plains had heard of David's skill and summoned him to her court. Gosi nodded solemnly. "This is the moment fate has been shaping you for." With his heart pounding, David prepared for the journey, unaware that this summons would change his life forever. The road to the Great Plains was perilous, filled with wild beasts and treacherous terrain. Accompanied by a small group of travelers, David found himself facing challenges beyond his imagination. Ambushes by bandits, a river that seemed to whisper his name, and a mysterious old woman who told him, Your hands will create more than beauty. They will shape the fate of nations. As the gates of the palace loomed before him, David knew he was stepping into a world far beyond anything he had ever known. As David stepped into the grand halls of the Great Plains Palace, his breath caught in his throat. The walls were adorned with carvings of warriors, scholars, and kings, each immortalized in stone. Queen Mary sat on a high throne, her piercing eyes studying him as if she could see into his soul. "I have heard of your gift, boy," she said, her voice rich with authority. "But a true artist must do more than impress. He must inspire." She presented him with a challenge: to sculpt a figure that would remind her warriors of their purpose. If he succeeded, she would reward him greatly. If he failed, he would be sent away in disgrace. David bowed. "I will not fail, my queen." David worked tirelessly, shaping a statue of a warrior in battle stance, his spear raised toward the heavens. As he sculpted, he felt something stir within him, an energy that guided his hands, whispering the story of forgotten heroes. On the final day, he unveiled his work. The entire court gasped. The warrior's expression was so fierce, so full of resolve, that even the hardest men in the room felt their hearts tighten. Queen Mary stood, walking around the sculpture, her fingers brushing its surface. "You have breathed life into stone," she declared. "I have never seen such skill." She then made a proclamation that changed his fate forever. "You will remain here and craft monuments for our people." Not everyone was pleased with David's success. The royal sculptor, an elder named Ralagolo, had spent decades as the palace's sole artist. Now a boy with cursed hands was taking his place. That night, in the shadows of the palace, Ralagolo met with a hooded figure. "The queen favors him too much," he hissed. "We must put an end to his rise." The hooded figure nodded. "Then let us ensure his gift becomes his downfall." The next morning, David found fresh clay waiting for him in his chamber. Eager to start his next sculpture, he did not notice the dark smudges hidden within the mixture. As he molded, a strange dizziness overtook him. His vision blurred. His breath came in short gasps. He collapsed beside his half-finished work, his body trembling violently. Servants rushed to his aid, but it was Queen Mary herself who knelt beside him. "Fetch Nana Jane," she commanded. "Only the wise woman of Swenyan can save him now." Days later, Nana Jane arrived at the palace, her aged hands gripping a pouch of healing herbs. She placed her hands over David's chest, chanting in a language older than the kingdom itself. As she worked, his body convulsed, expelling a dark substance from his lips. Finally, he gasped for air, his eyes fluttering open. "The poison sought to silence your hands," Nana Jane murmured, "but the spirits will not let your gift die." Queen Mary's expression darkened. "Someone wishes to see him fall. I will not let treachery go unpunished." The queen ordered an investigation. Servants were questioned, guards interrogated. Soon a trembling apprentice confessed. He had been bribed to mix the poison into David's clay. "By whom?" the queen demanded. The apprentice hesitated before whispering, "Master Ralagolo." Gasps filled the court. Ralagolo was dragged before the queen, his face a mask of shame and rage. "You would rather destroy talent than nurture it?" the queen said coldly. "You have dishonored your craft. Your place here is no more." With that, Ralagolo was exiled, his name stricken from the royal records. Though justice had been served, David's heart remained uneasy. That night he dreamt of fire, not the fire that had destroyed Kagosi's workshop, but a fire consuming an entire kingdom. He saw statues melting, warriors fleeing, and in the distance a shadowy figure watching it all. "The true trial has not yet begun," the voice from his dreams warned. "Beware the man with the golden mask." David awoke with a start, sweat dripping down his back. What did the vision mean? And who was the man with the golden mask? With his health restored, David resumed his work. But his hands no longer sculpted with mere skill. They moved with purpose, guided by something greater than himself. One evening, as he carved a monument for the queen, a traveler arrived at the palace. He was draped in fine robes, his face hidden behind a gleaming golden mask. "I have come," the stranger announced, "for the boy with the hands of fate." David's heart pounded. His true journey was only just beginning. The golden masked traveler stood before Queen Mary's throne, his presence an enigma. His voice was smooth like river stones, yet it carried the weight of a mountain. "I am Malik, keeper of lost history," he proclaimed, "and I have come to reveal the truth about the boy with the hands of fate." David felt a shiver course through him. He had seen this man in his dreams. What connection did they share? Malik stepped forward, revealing a scroll sealed with wax. Long ago, a prophecy spoke of an artist whose hands could restore what was lost, an artist who would rebuild the bridge between the mortal and spirit worlds. That artist is here among us. Murmurs filled the court, but the queen remained silent, watching David intently. "And what does this prophecy demand of him?" "That he completes his greatest work," Malik said, "by carving the face of the forgotten god." David knew his path was set. With Queen Mary's blessing and Nana Jane's parting wisdom, he set out with Malik and a small band of warriors toward the Forbidden Valley, where the ruins of an ancient shrine lay hidden. Their journey was perilous, twisting ravines, scorching deserts, and whispers of spirits that lurked in the shadows. At night, David's dreams grew more vivid, showing him glimpses of a colossal statue buried in the valley, waiting to be awakened. "Your hands must not only shape stone," Malik told him one evening, "they must shape destiny." After weeks of travel, they arrived at the Forbidden Valley. Before them lay the remains of an ancient shrine, its columns broken, its statues crumbling. Yet in the center stood a massive, unfinished stone face, the remnants of a god lost to time. As David touched the weathered surface, he felt something pulse beneath his fingertips. A deep voice echoed in his mind. "Complete me. Restore what was taken." He fell to his knees, gasping. The others saw nothing, but Malik only nodded. "It has begun." As David began his work, danger lurked nearby. Word of his journey had spread, reaching the ears of a warlord named Kagiso the Ruthless. He believed that reviving the shrine would bring ruin rather than prosperity. Under the cover of darkness, Kagiso's men approached the valley, their blades glinting under the moonlight. "Destroy the sculptor," Kagiso commanded. "Let the past remain buried." Just as David neared completion, war cries filled the valley. Kagiso's warriors descended like a storm, clashing with Queen Mary's guards. Swords rang against shields, arrows sliced through the air. David refused to stop carving. His hands moved as if guided by unseen forces. The stone face began to glow faintly, its features taking form. "Protect the sculptor!" Malik roared, fighting off an attacker. But Kagiso himself pushed through the chaos, his blade raised high, ready to strike David down. At the last moment, David struck the final chisel mark into the stone. A deep tremor shook the earth. The shrine pulsed with golden light, and the carved god's eyes opened. Kagiso staggered back, fear overtaking him. The ground beneath him split, and from the depths rose spectral warriors, guardians of the shrine, awakened from their eternal slumber. A voice boomed through the valley. "You who desecrate the past shall answer for your deeds." The spectral warriors charged forward, driving Kagiso's army into retreat. The valley fell silent once more. As the dust settled, David stood before the completed shrine. The stone god's face radiated power, its gaze filled with ancient wisdom. "You have restored me," the voice rumbled. "And so I bless you, sculptor of fate. Your hands shall shape more than art. They shall shape the future." A warm energy coursed through David's fingers. The scars and deformities that once marked them now glowed with an ethereal brilliance. He had been transformed. With the shrine restored and peace secured, David and his companions returned to Queen Mary's kingdom. He was no longer a mere sculptor, he was a legend. His name spread far and wide, and villages across the land sought him to carve monuments of their ancestors, preserving their history for generations to come. But despite his newfound fame, one thought remained: I must return to Chuanyan. Upon returning to his birthplace, David saw the same old village, but he was no longer the same boy they had cast aside. He did not come with vengeance, he came with purpose. With his wealth and skill, he built a school for children who, like him, had once been deemed different. He taught them to embrace their gifts rather than hide them. And at the heart of the village, he sculpted a statue. Not of warriors or gods, but of a grandmother holding a child's hands, whispering wisdom into his ear. For Nana Jane, he said, tears in his eyes, the woman who saw my gift before I did. Years passed, and David's name became woven into the fabric of legend. Travelers came from distant lands to see the man whose hands had reshaped history. One evening, as he sat by the fire, an elder asked, "Do you regret the hardships that led you here?" David smiled, looking down at his hands, the hands that once bore shame, now revered across kingdoms. "No," he said, "for fate did not curse me, it chose me." As the fire crackled and the stars shimmered above, the village children gathered to hear his tale. And so, the story of David, the boy born with cursed hands, was passed down through generations, never to be forgotten. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to more stories like David's. Keep well.